Which word of the day? Today's word is Sento. Noun. Sento is the sword of the blind warrior Kenshi in Mortal Kombat. This ancestral sword contains the spirits of warrior kings from his line, and he is in turn guided by these spirits in combat. He can sense an opponent's presence by their energy, or by hearing them, and thus can take opponents by surprise. Kenshi is well trained in telekinesis as well, frequently using it to move objects and people without physically touching them. His telekinetic attacks allow him to push, pull, and lift most things using a single hand motion. He is also capable of teleportation and levitation, further increasing his mobility.
You haven't even read that?
Wait, what are you doing with the book?
So he has the confidence to finish the story.
Hear now the words of the witches.
This is Kevin, and welcome to Words of the Witches, the Charmed podcast that will guide you through the lesser-known published material in the Charmed universe and decide how it fits into the grand narrative of the TV series. Alright, so this is Words of the Witches episode 31. We are covering the Warren witches today, and with me I have a guest, a wonderful guest named Nisha. Hi.
Hello.
And where are you? You're in the UK somewhere. What part of UK?
Bedfordshire.
Okay, wonderful. I don't know where that is, but I like it.
It's in the sort of like the weird grey area that's not quite the Midlands, not quite the Southeast. It's kind of
Gotcha.
there.
We got to learn a little bit about you 2 episodes ago when you were our featured spell worder.
Yes.
You probably didn't hear yourself yet, but I got your audio in there, and we learned, your discovery with Charmed and your relationship with Charmed. So this book is about family and ancestors. What's your family life like, and your roots like?
Well, so I'm Indian, and so my family roots go back to the north of India, Gujarat to be precise. Although I was born and raised in the UK, so I'm very, very British. And whilst my family is Hindu, and we have a long family history of Hindu. In fact, our last name, Vyas, was in the Holy Book, in the Bhagavad Gita. I myself am pagan. So I have some opinions about some of the content in the short stories.
Okay, that'll be fun to hear about that. I'm excited. We got a lot to cover this book.
Yes.
So we are in for a roller coaster. Before we get started, I do want to thank everybody who listened to the Manor episode, the bonus episode I had, and retweeted and reblogged and all that stuff about it, because we had a huge spike of activity because of that Manor episode.
It was amazing. I actually jumped ahead to listen to that, and I loved it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was, it was a great opportunity. I made little videos of me like doing the Manor door, like the telekinesis, and I'd be just exploring it, and I put those on TikTok, even though I'm not much of a TikTok person. But that telekinesis door one got over 200,000 views in 2 days. It was insane.
I saw your repost of it on Twitter, and I'm so jealous.
Dream come true. I can imagine people are like, "Oh, I want to do that."
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just very grateful. All right. Well, this book is called The Warren Witches, and this is another anthology book. We had the one Seasons of the Witch that had 3 short stories. This has 8 short stories. So we're gonna structure the episode a little bit differently than normal. We're not gonna do one grand rhyme time at the end, because that would be like too long and too confusing to figure out where these spells came from. So we're just gonna read our spells as they appear in the summary when we go, and we'll talk about them then. And then we'll still do our final thoughts and canonical at the end of every story. Another fun thing that I'm gonna be doing for this episode is, because it's the last book of the section where we do the best baddies and things, we're going to have figure out which one of the baddies from this book will move on to our grand list.
Okay.
Okay, so the book is The Warren Witches. I'm just going to describe the cover. It has season 6 promo pictures. This is a book that takes place in season 6. I'm guessing they don't give you a real timeline on these stories, but I'm guessing they take place before Witchstock, all these stories.
I think so. Yes, just.
There's some stories where they go to 1966, and there is one where they go to 1967, which is right in that time, 1967. So we'll talk about that. But there's like this big triquetra in the middle, and there's like trees in the background, and there's like this woman that is just a generic woman in a robe in there, and there's some like writing in there, so it's kind of pretty. And that has the tagline, "Their magic has been passed through centuries." Back of the book says, before Melinda Warren burned at the stake, she vowed that each generation of Warren witches would become stronger and stronger, culminating in the arrival of 3 sisters. That was a quote from the first episode. And I think we're the sisters. Binding ties. The most important thing in the charmed one's lives isn't magic, and it's not their jobs or their clothes. It's family. Piper, Phoebe, and Paige are Warren witches, the latest in a long line of women with incredible supernatural strength. For more than 2 centuries, the Warren witches have fearlessly practiced magic. From Melinda Warren in the 1600s to the charmed ones in 2005, the power of these witches is unsurpassed. The Warren witches recounts never before told stories of their lives as women, as witches, and most important, as members of a family of considerable magical strength and power. Above all, they are a family. Beyond all, they are witches. Oh, this book was published May 31st, 2005. So all these stories are May 31st, 2005, and they take place in season 6. And then the first story is called Old Friend by Laura J. Burns, who wrote Samhain and Imbolc from the first anthology book, Seasons of the Witch, and then she wrote Inherit the Witch. So it starts off with Paige. She runs into her friend from college at the grocery store. Her name is Emily Griffin. And Paige tells all about her new life with sisters and how she lives in the manor and invites her to dinner. Pretty much like forces her to dinner. She's like, come with me. And then it cuts to dinner with Piper and Phoebe joining. Emily tells them how she went to Africa in the Peace Corps. This is my awesome life. I'm so cool. But in a moment, Emily excuses herself to go to the bathroom. She's like, where's the bathroom? I'm going to go there. And while she's in there, Piper and Phoebe tell Paige that she looks familiar. Like, I can't place it. She looks familiar to me. Paige knows that's impossible because how would they have ever met before? Emily is taking forever to return, so Paige goes to check on her. And then she's like looking all the rooms. She's like, she's not in here. She's not in the bathroom. Where is she? She ends up going to the attic, and she finds Emily up there. Behind. Dun dun dun! What is she doing in the attic? She's behind the Book of Shadows, and she's like reading a spell. Her lips are moving. It's like, gasp. And so Emily looks up. She's like, oh! And she slams the book down and then disappears. So, ooh. Piper and Phoebe take Wyatt and go upstairs when they hear Paige yelling. They discuss if Emily was a shapeshifter or a witch. And then they're like, she had to be saying a spell. What spell was she saying? So they try to track that down. Piper still thinks Emily looked familiar, so she pulls out an old photo album. This is really cute. There's like looking through the photo album, and she's seeing all these like cute childhood pictures of her and Prue, and like, oh. But then she finds one with their old babysitter, and she's like, that's Emily! What? How is she back? Like, that's why she looked familiar to me. How is she that age? I don't know. This is crazy. So Phoebe seemed to think Emily looked familiar for a different reason entirely, because Phoebe wasn't around for those babysitting times, because she has no memory of the babysitter, but she thought she saw her in the Book of Shadows. So she was looking through the Book of Shadows. She looks like someone I saw in there. So Paige is just so confused. She's like, how do you people know my friend? How is she involved with this? This is crazy. Is she a dangerous person? Is she a bad person? And then Phoebe finds an entry from Grams entitled Amelia Grifton, with a picture of Emily, and this is the Book of Shadows entry. It says, she lived next door for 5 years in the 1950s. It isn't necessarily magical, but circumstances of Amelia's disappearance are definitely odd. One day she was here, the next she was gone, but she left no forwarding address. She didn't take any of her furniture or clothing, and she never said goodbye, although we have been friends for years. The reason I am suspicious is this. Amelia disappeared the day after meeting Mother, and Mother is positive that she has seen Amelia before. She's getting old now, and her memory isn't what it was, but I trust her when she says she recognized Amelia. When I looked for Amelia, there was no government records on her, and when I scribed for Amelia, I found not a trace of her. It was as if she never existed. Curious and curious there. They look to see that Amelia, or Emily, or whoever this lady is, this had to be the same person over the generations, as the woman had the exact same birthmark on her face. So Piper calls for Leo to take Wyatt. Leo says he's busy and he can't, so Phoebe agrees to watch him instead. And then they say a spell to find the last spell that was cast on the book. So they're gonna say this spell, which will open to the last spell that she cast, so they know what she cast. To make the book open to the last spell used, Halliwell book, we need another look. Reveal your latest secret. How do you feel about that one?
I will say what the first thing that came into my head was the quote from Brain Train was, doesn't really rhyme, does it?
Right. It's just a statement.
Yes.
And then that spell makes the book flip to a different spell. And it says it's the spell to return to the beginning. Piper and Paige read the spell together. So because Phoebe's going to stay with Wyatt, so only Piper and Paige say this one. And it says to return to the beginning. Powers enacted, magic has gone, the spell was said and done. Return me there to see it again. That's horrible.
Yeah, it's really, really patchy rhyming.
Yeah, that's not good. Okay, moving on. Piper and Paige find themselves in the attic, but it looks different. Oh, some of that 70s episode vibes.
Yeah, I made a note.
Yeah, they go downstairs and find themselves in the 20s when Graham's mother turned the manor into a speakeasy during the Depression. We know this time from Pardon My Past.
Yes.
Yay. Piper informs Paige about the cousins that lived there and to be warned that there may be an evil one because Piper's like, yeah, Phoebe's past life was kind of awful. So Piper feels Paige's clothes wouldn't stand out as much among the locals because she was wearing something a little bit more. I mean, it wasn't as offensive.
Yes.
You go downstairs and check. They won't bother you as much. So Paige goes downstairs and she scopes out the speakeasy, trying to see if she can find anybody that, that looks like Emily or Amelia or whatever. And there's a man at the door. He's eyeing her up because he's like the bouncer guy. But most people are just ignoring her completely. Paige does find Emily amongst a group of women, and they're all appalled at her radical attire. Whoa, she thinks she's hip. Ooh. The women call Emily Emmeline Graydon. And ask if she knows Paige. Like, do you know this woman, Emmeline Graydon? And this Emily doesn't seem to know who Paige is at all. And seems to be like a typical girl of the times. She's like, "Do you want to party with me?" So Emily just wants to take Paige upstairs because they kind of connect. She's like, "Well, why don't I introduce you to the owner of the speakeasy? She's pretty cool." Because she tells Paige that she grew up with the cousins and that P. Russell used to be her babysitter. So Paige surmises that Emmeline must be the beginning of whatever is going down, whatever is happening. She's the key. Well, I mean, kind of got that already from the Book of Shadows, but sure. So now it comes to Piper. She's still upstairs and looking up in the rooms there, and she peruses all the bedrooms and things, and she notices a picture of Graham's grandparents. It was one that she has recognized. She's seen before. So she's like, this must be my great grandparents' room, my grandmother's room. Piper turns and finds Emily, not Emmeline Graydon, but Emily, the original Emily. And Emily admits to saying this, but she's like, yeah, I said that. What are you going to do about it? Wyatt suddenly orbs into Piper's arms, and this is like, wait, what? I was like, this was a shock. Okay, what is he doing here? And Emily is shocked that she's like, that baby is a witch too? And Emily apologizes to Piper. She's like, I know I didn't mean to upset your family or anything, but I have to do this. Sorry, not sorry. Once I found out Paige lived in the manor, I couldn't let the opportunity pass me by. She's like, and this is none of your business anyway. This is all mine. I'm like, well, if you're invading their house, it's kind of, and you're talking to the family, it is kind of their business. Just saying. Yes. Phoebe suddenly comes through the door, relieved to find Wyatt with Piper. And Piper is surprised to see Phoebe because she's like, weren't you in the present with Wyatt? What are you guys doing here? But Phoebe's like, oh yeah, once you left, I said the spell too, because I was left out. Emily says that she is not a witch, but a victim of one, because they're asking, it's like, what are you? She's like, well, a witch cursed me, so I hate witches. So P. Baxter, they called her Great Grams in this, which, yeah, she was Great Grams. So the Great Grams, Baxter she comes in wondering what all these people are doing in her bedroom. She's like, what? Why is there a party in my bedroom and nobody invited me? I don't know you, strangers. Get out. Emily then grabs Wyatt and violently yells at them for being witches. Baxter is in shock, and Piper tells her that they are her great-granddaughters. She's like, oh, okay. Well, that's cool. Emily is frustrated. She's like, stop talking. And she reveals that she's like, I've been 19 for 80 years. It's like, I have the biggest problem here, and I hate you. So then you cut to Emmeline, the girl with Paige, and she takes Paige to the door of the attic. Um, Emmeline tells Paige that P. Russell told her that she is not to go in here, and that it made Emmeline all the more curious. Like, she said, "Don't come in here," but that's like, oh, she wants me to find her little secret. That's all she's saying.
It's like she's never met her.
Yeah, it's like we're best friends, but I don't know anything about her.
Now, I was thinking more of like the way that Past Phoebe reacts with Christina Larson and the doll.
Very much that.
Yeah, like I'm surely Emmeline's got more sense than that, but clearly not.
Yeah, pretty much exactly the same.
Yeah.
Emily wants to find out her big secret, and it's certain. She's like, she won't be mad because we're best friends. So it's like she just wants me to find her. Sure. So Paige and Emily go into the attic and they hide amongst all the tchotchkes up there, and they watch Russell perform a youth spell. And Emily just watches like, ooh, isn't this fun and exciting? She has no clue what's actually happening. She's like, oh, she's a little rambunctious over here. And so this is the Eternal Youth spell. It says, light a circle of crimson candles, and when the spell has been said, blow them out in the reverse order. Powers of the earth and the land below, witness my beauty, behold my youth. Though others here continue to grow, let age pass me by, keep me young in truth. Another awkward spell.
Yeah, but it's less the rhyming and more the phrasing of it.
Yeah. Phrasing and then the syllables.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the words, if you take the words, they rhyme, they work, but it's just placed awkwardly.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, don't like that one either. Okay. Emily is now holding Wyatt hostage, and she's like in a hysterical fit. She's like, why would anybody listen to me? Why would anybody help me? And she threatens to hurt Wyatt if they don't like heal her or whatever, or uncurse her. Emily yells at great Grams Baxter, believing that she is responsible for cursing her because she was jealous that her cousin liked her more. She's like, Russell liked me better than you. We were best friends, and you were just jealous, so you hated me. I'm like, all right, get a hold of yourself, girl. Like, Emily lays it all out, and this particular night that they're in the past for, this is the night she was cursed, and it was with that youth spell that Russell was doing. She's like, I just say goodbye to all the things I loved. I can never settle down. I can never have a family. And, I just had to run away every time. Pepper, I used to babysit for you, and now you're older than me. That's just not natural. I can never get married or have my own children because they would figure out what a freak I am. My whole life was ruined. So, that's her. So it was interesting that she just... I feel like for someone who's been 19 for a long time, she's kind of bitter. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't be this crazy, but
yeah, I guess if she's stuck in a limbo of having to be 19 her entire life,
yeah.
I mean, I remember being 19. You don't really get respected for anything, and then and then she says she can't get married, she can't have children,
And she does have kind of that 19-year-old demeanor, that whole like bratty teen kind of thing going on. So the family yells at Emily that they can help her. Great Gramps tells her that it was her cousin who cursed her, not her. And here, back in the attic where they're watching her, Russell was nearing the completion of her spell, and Paige popped out because she's like, she can't finish the spell. This is what exactly happened to Emmeline, so no. So she popped out. She's like, hey, don't do that. And Russell's like, what? Are you watching me? Paige says, you're casting a spell for personal gain. Isn't that a no-no?
Yeah, like that will stop her.
Yeah. So Russell blows out another candle. She's like, look at me. Ooh, you can't stop me. Paige then informs her that she is from the future, and the spell doesn't actually work on her. She's like, I've seen the future, and what you're trying to do doesn't work for you. Sorry, bitch. And she's like, huh? What? Wow, what happened? Tell me more. Emmeline pops out, and she's all of a sudden surprised because she heard them talking about their witches, and she's like, oh, you're witches? I don't actually believe in real witches. I thought this was all a fun game, but now you're starting to be weird to me. And then Russell shoots a stream of fire out of her hand to show Emmeline that she's like, yeah, witches are real. Look. She's like, oh my gosh. And then she faints. Paige is like, your spell's not going to work. She's still in the room. So if you finish it, it's still going to go to her and not you. So Russell's annoyed that Emmeline is just still here. So she shoots another stream of fire intended to just kill her, start her on fire and everything. Before the flames hit Emmeline, the flames begin to slow down. Because Baxter is in the room and she uses her little freezing power, her slow down time power. And then Russell looks at the people in the doorway because Baxter is there, Emily is there, Wyatt is there. And she looks at Emily, she's like, "What's this person looks like this person?" Oh, but so she throws fire at her too, but Emily is holding Wyatt still. And so Wyatt like puts the shield up and protects them both. Baxter chides Russell for attacking a child. He's like, "You just attacked a child. Are you evil?" And Russell plays dumb, acting like she thought she was a demon. He's like, "No, I thought she was a demon, so I was going to attack her. I'm not bad at all. Well, I don't know what you're talking about." Baxter notices the spell that was going on, and then Russell frivolously makes excuses that, "I didn't leave you for a drink. This was just whatever." Don't pay attention to that spell. Phoebe tries to tell Baxter that she knows something. She's like, "I know something about Russell. I have to tell you this." And Baxter's like, "I know. She's evil. I've been suspicious. Me and my other cousin have been suspicious of her," which we know who that is. That's
Bowen. Yeah.
Bowen. Prue's past life. And she's like, "And this little fiasco that we just saw, this confirms that. So now we have to go get her." Emily kisses Wyatt, thanking him for saving her life. She's like, "Oh, you're such a nice baby. I remember how cute Piper was when she was a baby." And then she gives Paige a wink. She's like, "I remember you from college. Stay cool, Paige." And then she disappears. I guess her timeline has changed now, so everything's back to normal for her. They go back to the present. The sisters discuss Emily's hardships and what her life must have been like. And then they look in the book again, and they see an entry in Great Graham's writing, Baxter's writing, on the Amelia page that says, "She grew old."
Aww.
The end! Ooh. So, thoughts on that story?
I quite enjoyed it. I think Laura was quite good at keeping it sort of within character, and sort of like throwing in these little bits of where you can start being suspicious. When Emily goes on about how she's a huge fan of Aunt Phoebe, but she was in Zambia and there was no internet, so how was she reading that?
Yeah.
Because at first I was like, wait a minute, that seems like a really poor writing choice, and then I realised, wait, that's probably supposed to be a clue she's thrown in there.
Yeah. Huh. This story was fun. I love that we got to revisit the manor in the 20s, which I guess happens quite a bit in this book, but
so much.
Yeah. They really love that part of my past stuff.
Yes.
Which I guess
as well.
Yeah, to be fair, that is a really good episode.
It is.
And I love that Wyatt is involved in the story, because that's always super cute.
Yeah.
I thought the past lives that were shown in this, Baxter and Russell, I thought they were written super well. Like, they were written like the ones we knew. I did feel like the Emily plot device was a little bit forced and a little bit annoying, but I didn't mind it as much just because we needed something to get us there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed the Russell scene because the slinkiness and cold interactions of... Do you know the names that they are known as their first names?
I did. None of them are coming to my mind at the moment.
So, P. Russell was Pearl Russell.
Oh, yes, that one I did know.
Then we had Priscilla Baxter and then Phoebe Bowen. And I want to bring those up because those were technically not officially, confirmed, but I do know that they originally did have names in the original script, but they dropped them because they thought it would be confusing for the audiences. So, and this is what I see everywhere. So in my headcanon, this is their official first names.
Yeah.
So I always refer to them as that, even if, if you go to official sources, they might not say it.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a little bit of a shame that they didn't have Bowen involved in this story because they mentioned her. I was like, oh, well, why didn't they put her in there? It's like, are they trying to avoid any Prue's past life stuff? Because she wouldn't even look like her, really. It's just a recognition of souls, but
exactly,
sure. Yeah. Anything for, canonical?
Yes, actually, when Piper was trying to get the tense correct, when she's trying to put herself in place, I was like, yep, that's like Prue in that 70s episode.
Exactly. That was I wrote that down to page 17. She said, now we just have to figure out when that is, whatever. Which, they did that multiple times in that 70s episode.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh, see the China back. Ooh. I loved that none of the sisters used their powers in the past because accurate. But then Wyatt goes ahead and ruined it and he used his powers. But then it got me thinking. Because Wyatt and Chris in the show have always been able to use their powers in the past. In every episode, there were.
Point, yes.
So maybe this new generation has something in them that like lets them use powers across time, or they have. I don't know if it's a genetic thing or if it was something that they did in the future, but that rule doesn't apply to them.
No, I mean, like, my theory would have been that they're half white lighter, but then so is Paige. So that doesn't hold any water.
So yeah, I'm just thinking this new generation has that ability. Past book before this would have the sisters use powers in the past, and I would call it out every time. This book, even in the stories following, like they really were consistent about them not having the powers in the past. So it's like,
yes,
all right, good job, book. So next story,
The Crucible. And I don't actually know how to pronounce this name. Is it Michael? Osto?
See, yeah, I don't know either. I always guess. I don't know for sure, but. And she wrote Changeling Places before this. This was her first book, was the last book.
Yeah, so we start off with Phoebe coming to the manor and telling Paige and Piper the wonderful news that she's going to be a high school intern. She's going to get a high school intern to mentor at the Bay Mirror. Which I think is actually quite interesting because then it feeds into later on when she does have an intern program. So this must be very early season 6.
Yeah, right.
So a week later, Phoebe has a Q&A session with the 10th grade English class, and she soon has a hard time picking a student to be her intern, as all were capable. And soon a whisk of air moves through the room, and a single application falls to the floor. Phoebe picks it up, and it belongs to a girl named Marissa Hargrave. Yeah, Elise comes in to think Phoebe is weird for talking to herself, which again seems odd for Elise because...
I mean, Phoebe does it all the time. It should be like, that's just Phoebe.
Exactly. She's like, whatever sells papers, I don't care.
Exactly. Because half the time she is talking to somebody, but we don't know that somebody else is in the room. So
yeah. So Elise and Phoebe both remember Marissa as the quiet goth girl dressed in black. Phoebe takes steps to hire Marissa, not even stopping to think about how it was her application that was the one that drifted out from such a hefty stack. I think that's probably just like, I can't be bothered to decide anymore. The wind chose for me.
Yeah. But I think it's funny that the book made a point of mentioning that. She's like, she doesn't think about where it came from at all.
Yes. And at that point, I did think, like, maybe Marissa was involved in that, but...
Yeah.
So Marissa's first day comes, and Phoebe's impressed. They chat, and Marissa admits she doesn't really like school, and that she recently lost her grandmother. Phoebe mentions how she thinks everyone goes through a terrible time in high school, and Marissa's immediately offended because Phoebe doesn't find her situation unique. And like, that hit me quite hard because I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
So I have various students of all ages going through a huge amount of things. And when Phoebe said that, I was like, oh, so close.
Yeah.
Like, I get what she was saying, but yeah, that was not something you want to say to a hormonal teenager.
No, exactly. She's like, you don't understand. You don't get me. I'm not important enough to you. Yeah, it's totally like kind of vibe.
Yeah. Yes, and Marissa goes home for the night. And Phoebe sees that Marissa left a copy of The Crucible at the desk. She picks it up, and Phoebe gets a vision of Marissa being chased by a mob of other teens down an alley. Phoebe comes home and tells Leo and her sisters they've got an innocent to protect. Leo informed Phoebe that the elders also gave him innocent to look into, and quite a coincidence, they're both talking about Marissa. So Marissa is at school and she's doing her best to ignore popular girl bully Natalie Kent. Natalie doesn't like being ignored. Her boyfriend, Matt, told her to cool it. Melissa's tripped, and then she flees the school. And Phoebe and Leo find her outside, and Phoebe returns her book. They take Marissa back to the manor and reconvene with Piper and Paige. And I'm just going to interject here as well.
Yes.
I don't know what the rules are like in the States, but that feels like a massive safeguarding issue. Let's just take this random minor and in the middle of her school day and go home, and there's never any kind of thing with her parents or anything like that.
I know. They do that all the time in past books and in the show. They're like, doesn't anybody ever like think about these things? Like when they take people from the hospitals and things like that. It's like, yeah, you can't take people from school. You can't. This is like sanctioned stuff. Like,
yes, I mean, I will mention this up later. That Marissa reminds me a lot of Aviva from the first.
I was thinking that too.
And that's what made me think about the whole leaving school thing, because at least in that situation when Aviva skipped school and went back to Phoebe's house, they called her aunt, and her aunt was like, "You skipped school. I want to know why."
Exactly.
And then, this is I'm guessing they just decided it's a short story. It's not really relevant. Her parents are pissed that she skipped school.
Right.
But
things.
Yes. So Marissa reveals that Matt was into her but she turned him down. And even after he started dating Natalie, he vied for Marissa's attention. School administrators had to tell him to stop stalking her, but ever since Natalie hated Marissa. And Marissa and a friend put a hex on Natalie as a joke, but don't actually believe in magic. Oh, great. And Leo asked if she could show them the spell, which Marissa seems to do the next day with absolutely, forms of she's like, okay, look, here's the spell book we used, even though she doesn't believe any of it. And she substituted powdered mushroom for wolfsbane because she didn't know what it was. And again, that was one of those times where I was just like, oh god, right, okay. Maybe.
Yeah.
So Piper bids Marissa away and they summon Grams. And Grams shows them an entry in the Book of Shadows. An entry about, I'm going to guess that the pronunciation is heat.
Hate? Hete? I don't know. But whatever one works for you.
His name is Old English for hatred, which I did mean to Google and I didn't. But they say heat is a demon who foments hatred amongst humans. His job is to sow discord. He has been responsible for most incidents of mob violence throughout history, including the Salem witch trials. He can be bound with a potion. He reminds me of Andrus.
Oh, yes. Amplifying rage and things like that. I think of Drazi, too, because I always thought Drazi was a demon of hate, since he was opposite of Cupid.
Yes. Graham says that due to the substitution, Marissa actually put the hex on herself, and that explains Natalie's irrational anger. I'll come back to that one because, again, as a pagan, I have opinions about that. So they need to summon the demon out of Marissa, and they all into her room when she's asleep. The sisters perform the spell, and the demon ominously appears and then escapes out the window, which doesn't wake her.
No.
Yeah, again, safeguarding issues. You don't orb into a child's room.
And they're so creepy. Just like, let's orb when she's asleep. I'm like, all right. I don't like this.
So that's to our first spell.
Yeah.
So to bring out the demon of hatred from a possessed person. Mark of hatred, hear our plea. Bring the demon forth to be fully seen. That's some broken rhyming again.
Yeah. It's simple but annoying.
Yes.
So.
Moving on. So there's a time jump, and Marissa runs to the manor after being beaten by kids at school and escaping. The girls, Leo and Grams, are there, and Phoebe puts a protection spell on the manor, which is a continuity error. I will come back to that. Natalie and her posse break through the kitchen windows with the intent to kill Marissa. Leo and Grams take Marissa upstairs, and Piper freezes the rowdy teens as heat appears behind them, feeding off the dark energy.
Oh.
A brief battle ensues. Phoebe reworks the spell to banish heat, and Paige throws the potion. And we have another potion. We have another spell.
Yes.
So the potion needs to be tossed after the incantation is cast. Demon of hatred, be gone from this place. Remove your evil influence from our deeds.
Does it really rhyme, does it?
No, it's so close to rhyming and then it doesn't.
It starts off fine. The first two lines are fine, and then you need to follow through.
Yes.
Come on.
So heat turns to dust and is whisked out of the window. Piper unfreezes the kids, and they're all confused, naturally. And Phoebe tells them it's so nice to meet the fans and humours them. And I don't think they mention it in the actual prose as well, but just the fact that they're all like, oh yes, we definitely came here for a meet and greet with our Phoebe, and the living room, the sunroom is not completely trashed and exploded in different places.
I know. And it's like they don't want to look stupid at all, so they just go with it, like, oh, that's what happened? Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
I know, and also
we're
as
the
well,
cool kids.
Yeah, and if they wanted to sell it a little bit more, there was a simple spell they can use just to make the place look presentable, because Paige has done it numerous times.
Sure, yeah, it's her favorite spell.
Exactly, yes.
That's the object of objection, that thing, yeah.
Yes. But, oh well. So Grams tells them that hate is banished for now, but he never goes away, because hate will always be part of human emotion. And 3 days later, Marissa is helping Phoebe at the BAME area, much happier. And Phoebe gets a letter from a new freshman and suggests that Marissa take a crack at writing the advice column for it. The end!
Ta-da! So, I know you've got thoughts. Let's hear them.
Yeah. I mean, generally, for the most part, in all of the short stories, the writers don't really seem to understand how spells and potions work. within the context of the show, and also in the context of pagan practitioners, because the power of the spell is in the intent behind it. So changing over one ingredient, it won't shift the entire focus of the spell. Even in charm, that wouldn't be the case.
Right. Because she doesn't believe in magic at all. So, like, part of making spells happen is your belief in them and your want for them to happen. And so the fact that she's just doing it as a joke, I don't know if it would work. But then again, she is putting energy into it, so maybe she does believe somewhere. I don't know.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, she could have a bit of emotion in her that's fueling it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, still her intent would have been to have Natalie be the object of her spell, not herself.
Right. So,
and yeah, changing one ingredient is not going to switch the focus of it.
No.
It would have made more sense if it had been more that she was unfocused.
Exactly. Didn't have the follow through to make it go where it needed to go.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I said the story wasn't bad, but it was rather trope heavy.
Yes, it was.
It felt like every teenager movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So I didn't love it. It was fine, but I didn't love it. I thought the opening scene, the first scene of the book with Wyatt and the sisters, that was really well done. You know, it was very funny, very witty, and well paced. That was my favorite part of the story.
Yeah, same. I did find that was very, very in character.
Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, this is nice. Okay. I think it's interesting that they managed to keep Marissa in the dark about magic this entire book. How do they manage to do that amidst all this crazy? I don't know.
Yeah, and then also the fact that it all seems to be centered around the spell from that book, and yet she never connects the dots.
No. And then I thought it was weird that they never explained what the breeze that made Marissa's file jump out was, because they pointed it out and it made it seem like they're going to explain what that was. Like, was it a ghost? Was it a spell? Was it the elders? Was it magical intuition? I just needed to know.
Yeah, that was just a hanging thread there.
All right, so now into a canonical. So I think you mentioned some of them already.
Yes, I had.
So Phoebe picks the Gothica because she kind of sees herself in her. There's the whole Aviva thing.
Yeah.
High school reunion. So she was kind of that girl. So I guess that's why she was drawn to her.
Yeah.
And really, all the sisters reflect on their high school lives. Piper thinks about her Cody Piper reunion and stuff, and
yeah,
so that was nice. So in this, because Marissa sees Grams and everything, Grams had to take physical form, but they never actually tell you that she took physical form.
Yeah, you kind of just assume because you can see her.
Yeah. She's not glowing, she's not translucent or anything, so I was like, oh, I guess Grams is here. Okay. As a general rule, only powerful spirits can turn corporeal, or if they're summoned and then they leave the circle. That's when they turn that way. So, but yeah, just something to note there. Oh yeah, you wanted to say something about the protection spell?
Yes, because that's like they've never really had a generic protection spell ever in the show, and even when Phoebe talks about doing a protection potion, Piper points out that if that was possible,
such a thing as protection potion, we've been mixing it in our morning coffee.
Yes, exactly. So that did seem a little bit off. I mean, it would have made more sense if they'd done some sort of protection around the house, so like when they did the crystal grid all the time.
Exactly.
That would have
I had that in my notes too. See?
Yes, I have written in my notes for one of the other short stories. Oh no, that was this one. Yeah.
But it does happen at the last one too.
Yeah, it was just a really odd aside. She's like, "Oh, I just put a protection spell on the house."
Ta-da!
Yeah, it would have made more sense of with the grid's still up from last time or something like that.
Right. Oh, I thought Drazi was the demon of hate, and Andrus could be in there too. So I'm thinking like, I suppose there could be multiple like hate demons, like just like there's multiple Cupids. I mean, I thought that maybe that's what it is, but then Grams made it seem like he is the only one, and he's unvanquishable because he's the manifestation of dark. So I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, I guess based on what we've seen in this short story, that he seems to bring hate out of nowhere, whereas Drazi and Andrus build on what's already existing.
Good, I like that. Very nice. See, there we go. Difference. Short story number 3 is Patty's Awakening by Greg Elliott. What's interesting about this author, Greg Elliott, is he wrote episodes of the show.
Yes.
He wrote The Wedding from Hell and Feats of Clay, which are like some of the worst episodes of season 1, but still.
Yeah, I didn't mind Feats of Clay, but yeah, Wedding from Hell's not great.
Yeah. So yeah, those are whatever. And then he writes a book after this, Demon Doppelgangers. So, but yeah, I was just like noting those episodes. I was like, oh, this might not be good. I was gonna hear like, oh, it's him. Okay. But here we go. So it's 1966. Oh, see, 16-year-old Patty is returning home after a little fight with her friend Mandy. Oh, I just love the idea of a teenage Patty.
Yes.
Penny is having, so her mom, Grams, she's having a 24-hour Beltane ball to celebrate the Sabbath of renewal and fertility. And she's like, yes, 24 hours at my place. Let's go. And Patty's like, oh my God, I don't want to go there. I don't want to be a part of that party. But she's like, because she can't stay at Mandy's anymore, they had a fight. She goes home and she just tries to go to bed. She's like, I'm tempted to sleep, but the noise of the party is keeping her awake. So she's like, oh, I hate my mom right now. Come Saturday morning, Patty begins to leave, but is stopped by Penny. Oh yeah, because at the party, there's like all these witch practitioners, but there's lots of fairies at this party too, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So fairies are welcome. But Penny freezes them because the witches are there don't freeze, since they're good witches. Only the fairies freeze. She's like, well, I froze the fairies. And Penny thinks that was one of her best freezes ever. It's like, Patty, you're getting very good at that. Congratulations. And Patty woes that she'd rather be normal. She's like, oh God, I just want to... Why do I have to be a witch? This isn't fair. It's so unfair. Patty thinks about going back to Mandy's, but then decides it's best to go see if she can go to her boyfriend Hugh's place. So she calls Hugh, and his mom is like, let me talk to her. Invite her over. Yeah. Patty goes over to the house. She has breakfast with them. Patty tells Hugh's mom, her name is Stella, that she got in a fight with Mandy over the war. So this was during like the Vietnam War.
Yes.
And Mandy is against the war, but Patty knows that Hugh's dad is fighting in it, so she's like wants to be supportive of Hugh and the family. So she's like, so they had a fight over this. Stella sends Hugh to run errands while Patty hangs out with Stella, takes a bath, and rests. We get into that at the end because that happens constantly. Patty spends the rest of the day with Hugh and his mom, loving, feeling like a normal girl. She's like, this is my life. I don't want to have any powers, any magic, any witchy people. The next day, Patty and Penny clean the manor in the aftermath of the party, and Patty tells her mom that she may want to give up her powers. Penny reminded her that she'd be defenseless against evil. Like, even if you give up your powers, evil demons and stuff will still come after you. And Patty's like, oh, you're right. Well, I guess that's out the window. Patty was beginning to miss Mandy. She's like, I miss my friend. Maybe I should go see my friend. But she goes back to Stella instead, and Stella tells her that sometimes we have to make sacrifices when we stand up for what we believe in. So, maybe you just have to accept that you can't be friends with her anymore. I don't know. Sorry. Patty gets an idea to have her mom do some kind of magic to erase... Okay. She's like, I want to be normal. So, Mom, can you cast a spell on me so that I forget all about witchcraft and what witchcraft is? Get rid of my powers, get rid of my memories, and then I can be completely normal. And that rationale bothered me so much.
Yeah, Penny seemed so very, very relaxed about that. I would expect, even with hippie grams, to have more fireworks.
Yeah. It's just like, okay, I mean, you're still going to be living in a house with a witch. And they mention that. She's like, what are you going to do? She's like, I'll just pretend. This doesn't make any sense. You can't live in a house like that if you're normal.
Yeah.
So the next day, Patty has a vision of her having a baby girl. She takes it as a sign that her choosing a normal life is the right step. And I'm just like, what the hell? Why is she having visions? She doesn't have visions. The only time she has visions is when she's pregnant with Phoebe.
Exactly.
And they do try to explain it to maybe someone's giving you the visions. Maybe somebody's transmitting them to you, but they never explain it. They never. So I was like, I don't like this. I'm bothered. But she's like, when she saw that she's having a girl, she's like, well, this must be a sign that I am making the right move to become normal. I'm doing the right thing. A disheartened Penny tries to talk Patty out of this choice, but she's like, if this is really what you want, I'll help you. Patty gets another vision of her in a different hospital, and now she sees 3 daughters and a man. So she's like, oh, I have 3 daughters? Oh, that must be my husband? Okay. Well, it's like, this is my family. But then she sees, in the vision, a darkness starts to consume them. So, foreboding. Patty tells Penny about the visions, and Penny believes someone was transmitting them to her. Okay, so that's where it was. And one of those may be a threat. So either it's a fake vision or whatever. I don't know. Patty and Penny talk about magic and men. Okay, obviously. That's what they do. Patty gets another vision of 2 halls. One with a woman fighting the darkness, and one with a woman who feels like darkness. Which way do I go? Which path will be my future? I don't know. Oh. Penny encourages her to stay in the vision and look harder, look a little bit closer, see if you can make any signs out. And then she sees that the dark woman, who has that surrounded by darkness, is Stella. Stella. Oh my gosh, gasp. Penny tells Patty that Stella is a demon. Like, oh, you saw that? It's obvious. She's automatically a demon.
Oh, obviously, yes.
And she's like, well, Stella seems to be after your future daughters. That's the only explanation. And that's what's happening. So Patty knows that her dreams with Hugh are over. She's like, that's Hugh's mom. I can't quote with Hugh now. So she decides to stay a witch. She's like, well, I'll stay a witch then. Whatever. I'm over it. Patty goes to the Book of Shadows. This is weird to me. This is another weird thing that's weird to me.
Yes, yeah, no, I agree with this.
What is this? So she goes to the Book of Shadows. She asks it a question. She's like, oh, I don't know what she asks exactly, but she's like, tell me where I need to whatever. And then she waits for it to flip open. And she reads, the book flips to this page, and it's like advice. It's not a spell. It's just advice that rhymes. It's like, what should I do? And so it's advice to banish a demon threatening one's family. Very specific.
Yes.
When demons come in human form to threaten those you love with harm, wait until the moon's full power and cast your spell at the witching hour. So Gramps is like, yeah, that just tells you what you need to do next. And so Patty then asks the book for a spell to vanquish Stella. So she's like, okay, so how do I vanquish Stella? And then it flipped again to another thing. That's not a spell. Guidance, and it's more guidance to a banishing spell. Take 4 objects wrapped in care, 1 for each child you will bear. With this bundle and your spell, cast this demon back to hell. So I gotta say, these little guidance rhymes are very nice. They're really fun to say, but they're random.
Yes, and also really, really specific. Like, unless there were other Warren witches who had 4 children, that seems odd.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very bothered. Patty was surprised to learn that she'd have 4 kids. She's like, oh, this says I have 4 children. I only saw 3 in my vision. Penny tells Patty that she has to write her own spell, but that she scours the book again for one that she can modify. I'm lazy. I don't want to write my own spell. Let me go find one that I can change instead. She finds the spell in the Book of Shadows. It says, demon in the form of man, leave this quest, this life, this land. Return unto your natural form. No longer do my loved ones harm. A little bit awkward for that one.
Yeah, it is a bit.
So I don't like that rhyme as much. But that's the first spell she finds. And then with Penny's guidance, Patty starts to write her own spell. And I guess she combines the 2 guidance things and the spell that she found. And she's like, here we go. I'm going to make my own. I'm so smart. And it says, demon in this kindly form, quit your quest to do me harm. Stay no more in this earthly world. Back to darkness you are hurled. I don't know.
And I quite like that because it reminded me of the spell that she wrote in Cheaper by the Coven.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just really awkward and clunky. She's like, I wrote that when I was 4.
Yeah. Please restore what was took.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. It's not bad for a 16-year-old who a few hours ago was planning on not practicing magic at all.
So then Patty gathers 4 sentimental items that will protect each of her daughters, including Patty's baby blanket that Penny crocheted. So I'm like, oh, I know that blanket. Oh my god. It's like, pass down. I love that because it's Paige's baby blanket, but they're like, is that her baby blanket? No, it's mine. And so now we know where this came from. So Penny made it, and it's been passed down all through. I love that. Patty goes out with Hugh again, but she has ulterior motives this time, and she returns to his home, and she's freaking out. She's like, Stella's gonna know. She's gonna know what I'm thinking. She's gonna know I found her out. Oh my god. Stella immediately sends something wrong with Patty and sends Hugh to go grocery shopping. She's like, she just gives you a look. Like, I know. You want me to leave? Patty tells Stella she didn't make the sacrifice that she thought she would, and stained herself, much to Stella's surprise, because we know Stella's a demon. She's like, she wanted her to give up being a witch so she can steal the babies. Patty baited Stella into thinking that they will do a ceremony at a certain time and place in hopes that it will lure her there. And then later that night, where she lured Stella at a lake, Stella arrives in like a werewolf-like state. She's like, I'm a beast demon thing, and I'm morphing in and out between woman and beast. She's like, now I'm a woman, now I'm a beast, now I'm a woman. I'm like, okay. Can't catch me, I'm the gingerbread man. So Patty freezes Stella, and then she recites her spell, and then Stella was dragged into darkness. pretty simple. There was not much of a fight for that one. Patty wonders, she's like, "Do we just kill Hugh's mom?" And Penny's like, "No." She was like, "This is much better for Hugh and his dad now. Now they don't have to deal with a demon." And then they push Stella's car into the lake to fake her death. Like, this is getting real shady.
Yeah. Also, well, the other bit that I found really odd about that, it was
Just
like, oh no,
step-
no, it's
like,
fine.
when
Stella
was this
a stepmom.
established?
Like, what? Yes. And also as well, stepmoms are still mums.
I was very perturbed like this a little bit. She's dead now.
Yes.
Too bad. They're much better off. I don't know. It was weird. And then she goes to the funeral and she's like, "Hey Hugh, sorry about your mom." And then at the end, Penny and Patty bond over their relationship, and they're like, "Patty, guess what? You just did your first spell. You killed your first demon. You are a full-fledged witch." And then they pride in their lineage. The end. All right. So thoughts on this one?
Oh, I wasn't too keen on this one. I felt it wasn't a character for Patty at all, and continuity is sketchy.
I wanted to like this one so much more because the idea of seeing Patty and Penny in the past and seeing that teenage life before is such a great concept and a great idea, and I would want more of that. But this was disappointing.
Yeah.
Let's see, what's my final thoughts? He was absolutely nothing of a character. He was just a means to introduce Stella because every time Hugh go away. So that was annoying to me.
Yes.
And then the spell searching was the most convoluted and pointless thing I've ever seen. I was so infuriated. I'm like, get to the point already. Why do we have to keep finding these spells? And then I was so mad. However, once Patty began to write her own spell, I was a little excited for her to write in the book for the first time, and I thought Penny giving her feedback was kind of cute as a motherly thing. That was a nice moment. And Stella was a kind of a horrible villain too. She didn't do anything that was fun to be a villain. She didn't give any speeches or no talkbacks. She wasn't campy or dastardly. She just "Oh, I'll talk to you like a mom, and then I'm a beast. Ta-da!"
She actually did kind of remind me of a villain in a different book series. I'm trying to think. I don't know when they were written. In America, they're known as Sweep. The Sweep series by Kate Tiernan. Yeah, Stella reminded me a lot of oh my god, what her name? Selena in the Sweep series. She's very much so the main character. She's kind of like the cool witchy mum that she really wanted, and then it just turns out she's crazy and really evil, and and she did kind of feel like that to me.
Anything for canonical? Lots.
Oh my god. Oh my god, yes, so much. So at this point, they talk about about vanquishing demons and how Grams had to vanquish someone who showed up at the Beltane celebrations. But this is before Alan dies, so she's supposed to be very, very peaceful and no killing whatsoever at this point. So all the killing and the vanquishing and stuff would not sit well with her at all at this stage.
I said, "Where's Patty's dad? He's not dead until next year." And then I said, "Why isn't Penny a hippie chick? Why is Patty having visions?"
Yes.
And I put, "Patty asks questions over the book like it's a magic 8-ball, and the book automatically responds and flips. I don't buy it."
No. I mean, the book has some level of sentience, but not that level of sentience.
Show me my true love. Yeah. Or something. It's pretty much doing that same stupid stuff. So, but the Patty's blanket passed down after so many years, that was a nice little tidbit. I liked that part.
Yes. Although I don't know if the blanket that they have, you see in Charmed Again, is crocheted.
Oh.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, you're right. It's not crocheted. It's just a blanket. I didn't even think about that. You're right. That's funny. All right. So that's the end of that one. Here we go. We got some Paul Ruditis stuff. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Although I did actually spot a continuity error in that one. It's just a minor thing, but...
All right. So take it away. This is Something Old, Something New. And Paul wrote The Brewing Storm before this one. But he goes on to write much more.
Yes, I was going to say, yes, he has written a lot more. So we start with sisters in the attic staring at a vortex that has appeared in the attic with no announcement. And it's been there since yesterday, just chilling. And not finding any info in the book, Phoebe took a leap of faith and walks into it. I do love, though, just they're like, "Oh, there's a vortex." Oh, well.
I know.
Using it as a light to read.
It was so funny. It was so chill. And I love how they say, Phoebe just threw a tennis ball in there. What does this do? Oh.
It didn't come back.
Oh, well, okay. Whatever.
Which actually I'm going to throw another reference to another show, which obviously came out several years after. It was in the Doctor Who 50th
Oh.
anniversary, where a vortex appears, and the 11th Doctor throws his fez in there to see what would happen.
Fun.
And it appears somewhere else.
Okay.
Like, oh, that reminded me of that a little bit. So they haven't found any info in the book. So Paige goes, all right, I'm just going to walk into it.
Yeah.
And then Phoebe goes in, and then Piper calls Leo that they'll be back. She hopes and follows in.
It was a funny moment.
Yes, I expect that from Phoebe and Paige, but not Piper, to be like, oh, we'll be back, I think.
Yeah.
Especially not when there's Wyatt in play now.
She's like, take care of Wyatt.
So they end up in the edge of a forest, and Paige tries to orb the tennis ball, which they have now found on the floor. And it has no effect. So this tells Paige that they must be in the past because their powers aren't.
Ta-da! I'm like, thank you.
Yes. So Paige finds them some appropriate attire and learns they're in Boston in the early 1700s, which I think, so she clearly must have stolen them.
Yeah.
Because there's no way she could have got clothes that quickly.
Hanging on the line, like, oop, I grab this.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, that's what they do in The Good, Bad, and the Cursed as well.
Yeah.
Could have been worse. She could have stolen them off some corpses.
Exactly. Pretty little red dress drawn on the line. Yeah.
So the sisters discover there's a young woman crying, and they learn this girl was their sister Prudence Warren, and that they are her cousins. Or they tell her that they're the cousins, and they help Prudence to collect herbs for her wedding. Okay, yeah, I'm going to cycle back to that one because there's canonical issue there, possibly, potentially. So Prudence takes them to meet Elizabeth, who raised Prudence after Melinda's death, and Elizabeth is sceptical of the sisters, but lets them stay. Sure, fine, whatever. Right. And Phoebe and Piper follow Elizabeth into a mausoleum. They watch her go in and carry something back out. And Paige follows Prudence to a cottage in the woods. Inside, an old woman tells Prudence that the time has come to enact the spell she requested. Paige makes herself known and admits to hearing the conversation. Prudence does not take kindly to being followed and blasts Paige with telekinesis, which Prudence is absolutely shocked to see that she has powers.
Ta-da!
Later, Prudence comes to terms with the fact that the rumours that her mum used magic were true, and the sisters admit that they are witches too and that it runs in the family, and Prudence is having a hard time shaking her fear of magic, which, to be fair, is good enough reason considering that's why her mother was killed.
Exactly, and then the fact that you've been kept in the dark all this time, like, yeah, and it's a whole social problem. It's feared by most people. That's what you kind of were raised to think.
Exactly, yeah. So she admitted she went to Helena in the woods for guidance because she started having visions and wanted to get rid of her powers. Elizabeth arrives and admits that she should have told Prudence she was a witch sooner, but she swore to protect her and didn't want Melinda to have died in vain. Elizabeth brings out the Book of Shadows. Prudence slams it shut and runs away. So they make a plan to show Prudence that magic is good. They also surmise that Helena must be out to take the magic for herself. The Paige follows Prudence as she goes on her way to end her engagement with Michael. Yes, she fears her fiancé would shun her for being a witch.
Sad.
I know that's probably, it's sad, but also probably a healthy assumption to make at this time. So back at Prudence's house, they begin a potion to show the good of magic, which... okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the potion was going to do. It was very strange.
Yeah. I assumed it was to make that sunflower blue.
Oh, okay. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, and then it died instead. Which, again... I mean, the worst that was going to happen with that was like nothing would have happened.
Like, oh, cool.
Yeah, it was like, oh no, I wasn't able to get some powdered unicorn horn, so the sunflower shriveled up and died instead.
It's so weird. But yeah, okay.
Yeah. So Helena appears at the door and throws rocks on the floor. Elizabeth steps on them and a wall knocks the sisters and Elizabeth back, separating them from Prudence. Helena takes Prudence to complete the spell that will transfer her powers over to her. Michael comes to the house. Elizabeth and the gang request his help. Michael sweeps the stones away, destroying the barrier. Then he gives Elizabeth the necklace that Prudence had returned to him that afternoon. Elizabeth pours powder on the necklace and it begins to float away, and they all follow it. And Michael takes it in his stride.
Yeah.
They're led to Helena and Prudence in a circle of stones. Michael began to run to Prudence, but amidst the ritual, his sleeve started on fire. Prudence left the circle and waved her arm to send water from the river to put him out. Prudence returned to the circle, still adamant about giving up her powers. Elizabeth reveals that when she got to Boston, she had Helena remove her powers in order to better protect Prudence, but has regretted it ever since. Prudence decides to keep her powers and make a better life with Michael. They do not punish Helena because she's really just looking out for herself. Okay,
Yep.
yeah. A time portal appears and the sisters say their goodbyes. Upon returning, the spirited Grams is there. She tells them the combined Warren witches summoned the portal. It was preordained that the charmed ones would help, well before they even existed. Time travel and confusion logic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that happened.
Yeah. So, overall thoughts on that one?
I enjoyed it, but I expected more from Paul. I'll be honest.
Yeah. I mean, maybe because it was just a short story. I don't know. I thought it was a good story. I thought it was cute, clever.
Yes.
I thought the characters. It was kind of emotional and succinct, which I liked, and the characters, all of them had a significance. I appreciate that. There's no like throwaway characters in this story.
No, that's
they all
true.
had a point, and I'm like, that's not like Hugh from the last story. They all had a part to play.
Yeah, I did feel like those two stories next to each other seemed a bit. It made the book seem a bit repetitive.
Yeah.
Because it's the same plot of a teenager who wanted to give up her powers because of her partner.
Mm-hmm. But I liked the characters in here. I liked the overall story. I did not care for the preordained reasoning thing.
No.
Because I'm like, I don't know. They're like, oh, we knew that this time will come that you'd have to go back. I'm like, no, it's a little too much. No, I don't like that.
I mean, I feel like if they had done it similar to how All Halliwell's Eve was done, where they realized when they said, I think we're related before they get pulled back. And that's basically how Melinda Warren knew that the three powerful sisters would be her descendants.
Exactly.
Whereas here, Prudence had no idea.
No. There's no connection there. Canonical, I have said, they reminisce about the Vortex in Halliwell's Eve, since you just brought that up.
Yes.
And then I said, finally a story that acknowledges that they don't have powers in the past.
Yes. I was going to say that there's the one possible continuity error when they had that theory that Melinda bound Prudence's powers before her death. But Prudence would have been a toddler when Melinda died, and she's only just getting her powers now at 19.
Yeah.
They're supposed. It should be more instant than that, based on the lore.
There's a little bit of a continuity error if you keep this in canon with the lore of the books, because it goes against what happened in Whispers from the Past.
Yes, because Prudence would have recognized Phoebe.
Yeah. Because it says like what Prudence was born and raised in Salem, widowed, and then had the daughter Cassandra. And this one, she's not. I mean, maybe it could happen. Maybe she could have moved back to Salem. I don't know, because this is before she had a daughter. So you could argue that this happened before she went back to Salem or something. But it just, a little bit different there. But yeah, she would have recognized Phoebe for sure. Like, oh yeah, you're from when I was 19.
Yeah, and also it wouldn't have been a case of, we're looking for Prudence Warren. Oh, that's me. Phoebe would have recognized her because it's Phoebe's past.
Yes.
Even if it's Prudence's future.
Yes. Cool. Story 5. Moving right along. It's called Preconceived by Erica Pass. She has never written anything in the Charmed book series yet, so this is her first thing. Penny fights with a teenage Patty about personal gain. So we are back in 66 again.
Yes.
I'm assuming this happened after the last story because that one was supposed to be her first spell, her first demon and everything. So this is like another story in that same year, I guess. Penny rolls her eyes and looks forward to the day Patty will understand the stress of motherhood. She's like, you don't understand. Because the present day, and the sisters are out in the backyard having a barbecue, relaxing summer day, and they hear a crash inside the house, and they investigate. Inside, there's a warlock with a face tattoo. Everyone has face marks in these books.
Oh, yes.
He blinks in and holds an athame to Phoebe. She gets a vision. Paige orbs the athame and sends it back at him. But before it hits him, the warlock recites a spell in Latin and thanks Paige before going up in flames. He's like, thank you. And like, that was weird. So the sisters check the Book of Shadows to see what kind of demon that was or warlock that was. And they find that it is Bartholomew Angus, who has the power to resurrect an ancestor while he is in the process of being vanquished. Very specific. So,
it's such a good power to have.
Yeah, it's like, I can summon somebody who came before me, but only if I'm in the process of being vanquished and I can say this Latin spell beforehand. All right, very, very. I don't know. It just seems kind of odd. And then the ancestor that's resurrected after that happens, if they're successful, will be resurrected in whatever time that they were killed in. So, and then Phoebe, this is when she reveals that the vision she had was of their mom as a teen being killed by a warlock who looked like the warlock they just vanquished. And then this guy is identified as Simon Angus later on, not quite now, but they find out that he's Simon Angus. They immediately want to go to the past, but Leo encourages them to go in with a proper plan. Like, maybe plan ahead first. Make some spells, make a potion, stuff like that. Especially if you're not going to have your powers in the past.
Yes.
An hour later, they have potions that replicate freezing, exploding, and orbing, and spells in tow. So, we're not going to have our powers. Let's make potions that have our powers in them instead. They say the spell to send them back in time. To go back in time. Bring us back from whence we came to help our mother, to save our name. It's fine, but forgettable.
Yeah.
The sisters eavesdrop on Patty and Penny. Okay, so they're there like, oh, there they are. Let's watch. Patty wants to help her friend Stacy with magic, and Penny is vetoing the idea. She's like, no, personal gain. No, don't do it. Patty threatens, I love this. He's like, well, I'm going to ask Dad when he gets back here. He's going to agree with me then. Like, yay! Mention your dad because he's still alive. Thank you. And Simon, the ancestor that's just been revived, he's like watching. He's invisible in astral form with the ability to manipulate minds. So he's essentially Rex at this point.
Yes. Yeah, I thought that as well.
Exactly. Rex's powers, astral form with persuasion. Okay. Simon uses his powers to persuade Patty into using her own magic. And while Patty is at school, the sisters come to the front door of the manor and tell Grams that a warlock is after her daughter. Like, we can't tell you much, but we know some stuff. We're witch practitioners, and we know things. She's like, and Grams is obviously like a little skeptical. She's like, but they said enough that convinced her to let them inside. So Penny invites them in. She's suspicious, and then she brings them tea. The tea was spiked with a truth serum. And Penny then learns that the sisters are from the future and that the Angus line is after her, but they left before they say anything else. Like, what did you put in this tea? So the sisters leave, and Penny goes to the Book of Shadows to find the Angus. She's like, she knows what this is, so let's look at what the Book of Shadows says about it. And as she's up there, Simon attacks. But Penny, I love they mention her 2 fingers. I'm like, that's consistent. 2 fingers. Sends him flying with telekinesis, and then Simon blinks out. Patty's teacher introduces her to a new student named Colin. Patty is attracted to him, but also senses something menacing in him. I love that. She's like, he's like a bad boy, but I like it. So it's kind of funny. Colin suggests they cut class. Let's just ditch this popsicle stand and like whatever. Grams appears at the sisters' hotel because the sisters, I guess they got a hotel in this time, and she requests their help. Phoebe like shakes hands with Penny. She's like, sure, I'll help you. And she gets a premonition of Patty running towards some swings when she shakes Penny's hand. And then Pepper and Paige wonder why she has powers. Like, how did you get premonition? We don't have our powers. Why are you getting premonitions? Okay. She's like, maybe it's just the psychic connection. And Colin and Patty get to know each other. Patty finds him so thrilling. He's like, he is so cool. She freezes him briefly just to just look at him. She's like, I want to look at all of your features. It's like, he seems so familiar. So she unfreezes him then, and Colin asks Patty to the dance that night. As she goes off, Colin glamours back into Simon, his actual self, and he was privy to the freeze. He looked at his watch. He's like, that witch froze me. How dare she? He's like, well, I'm going to anticipate killing you. I'm going to kill you so good. Patty returns home to find Penny, and Penny is there with the sisters. She introduces Patty. She's like, come look at our friends. And Patty's upset that it's okay for 3 strangers to know about their witchy life, but she can't help her friend. She's like, oh, so it's okay for you to like tell these people that we don't even know all about our witch life and all about our powers, but I can't even help my friend. Thanks, I see how it is. So she leaves. She's like, how hypocritical are you? And then the sister's like, maybe we should go. We'll come back a little later. You need to talk to her. Oh yeah, because I think she just runs off to the attic or runs off to her bedroom. And so Patty goes up to have a heart-to-heart with Patty. And Grams tells Patty that they really can't trust these girls, and just try to stay close to home because there is someone after them. We know there's a actual threat. Don't go anywhere. Penny leaves, and then Patty hears a voice in her head. Power of persuasion. It's Simon over here again, telling her that, you don't need anybody's protection. You're a powerful witch. You're a good witch. You can do what you want. She's like, yeah, I'm a good witch. Moments later, the sisters and Penny find that Patty is gone. She disappeared. What? So they leave because they know that she wants to help Stacy. So they go to Stacy's house, and Stacy's like, "Don't you know she's at the dance? There's a dance tonight. Yes, a high school dance. Duh. She's with that kid Colin." And they're like, "Okay." And Phoebe remembers her vision with swings, and they follow that hunch. They don't go to the school. They're like, they must not be at the school. I think they're at a park somewhere. And so they start going that direction. At the dance, Colin suggests he and Patty go somewhere where they can be alone. And they go to the playground, and it's dark and playgroundy. Colin, as they get there, when they finally arrive, Colin turns into Simon and grabs Patty. "Oh, I got you now." Patty breaks a hand free and ends up freezing him, and then runs away because Penny is out there, and she's calling. She's like, "Patty!" And she's like, "Mom, I'm coming." And they connect, and then Simon unfreezes though, because the freezes only last so long, especially for a new witch. And he is thrilled. He's like, "Oh, I've got 5 witches now. Lucky me." And Simon practically is like, "Yeah, go ahead, vanquish me. See what happens. Why don't you vanquish me? Haha, I have the power to resurrect It's like, this keeps going back and back and back." So he's like, "Yeah, vanquish me." But then Phoebe's like, "Oh, you know what? Remember, he can just resurrect. So we gotta be tactful about this." So the sisters instruct Patty to freeze him again. She's like, "Freeze him, freeze his mouth, freeze his body." And while he's frozen, they all say the spell. And Paige throws a potion. She's like, "I have a potion. Why not? I just throw that in there too." And this is the spell: to vanquish an Angus warlock. "You wanted our powers, but all for naught. Your brand of evil just got you caught. Past, present, future, all. The time has come for us to call. For the demise of your kind, we banish you, Simon, for peace of mind." I like this at first, but there's that part where like the thought breaks up.
Yeah.
Like, the time has come for us to call for the like it's supposed to continue, but when it's rhyming like that, you can't do that.
No.
So I don't love that one. Simon is vanquished, and everyone says their goodbyes. Piper, Phoebe, and Paige recite a spell to return home, and this spell is, "Bring us back, no need to roam. We saved our name, now send us home." Sure, that's not bad, but fine. And then Leo's like, "Hey, you're back. How was it?" And then they look at the Book of Shadows, and on the Angus page in the Book of Shadows it says, "Sometimes it takes the power of 5. Blessed be my darlings." So it's Grams. So sweet. Okay. Thoughts?
I like this one, and there was a lot of callbacks to the series. I liked.
Yes, there were. I enjoyed the story a lot too. I think it was a nice Patty Penny story that has some meat to it, not like Patty's Awakening. It made more sense to me.
Yes.
I am shocked that the girls managed to get through this whole ordeal without telling Patty or Grams who they were.
Yes.
Especially since in every time they go into the past, they had no qualms about it. They're like, "Yeah, we're your granddaughters. You get used to it." They just tell them point blank. Because they tell them in that 70s episode, they tell them in which stock, and I'm like, okay. But then it got me thinking. I'm like, I wonder when Grams wrote that thing in the Book of Shadows. Was it sometime in the past when she found out who they were, 1967 perhaps, or was it something that she wrote after they got back? So, I think it made make more sense in like the past when she just realized it. But canonical.
So you said that Simon's powers reminded you of Rex and Wicker Envy, which I definitely agree with. Also, Barbas in Sympathy for the Demon, because he does a very similar thing.
Yes, yeah, and in the bad world.
Yes, he does it as well.
Yeah. So right. It's that thing. Okay. I said the resurrected ancestor thing alters the water demon timeline, because they do talk about how she died from the water demon, but then because of this guy, get resurrected now, maybe he kills her instead. So it like changes the timeline, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I love that they prepare for the likelihood of inactive powers. That was good.
Yes, and the potions replicating powers is a callback to their episodes as well.
There is a potion to replicate the freezing power. There's a potion to replicate the explosive power. There is an astral projection potion as well. So they do have those. Although the orbiting potion, that I don't think is real.
No, but there is a transportation one because Billy and Christy use it a lot.
Disappear into the mist. So I wish they didn't call it an orbiting potion, but I think they should just call it like a transportation one. Yeah, because I know Billy. I think the first time Billy uses it is in Desperate House Witches when she takes Leo and her to magic school.
Yes,
and that's just constant. But yeah, Alan Halliwell, Patty talks about her dad, so cute. I wonder how Phoebe got a premonition.
Yes, and my only theory about that is because her power is to see through time.
Oh, yeah.
But even then, that's tenuous.
Would a spell to return home in the past work if they didn't have powers? We know that they do have some innate magical abilities. We learned that in Halliwell's Eve. They still have like that magic bloodline, so maybe that's why. I'm inclined to believe it can work, but I feel like it would take more work than just reciting a spell. I feel like they'd have to like really get into their roots.
Yeah, I mean, in that 70s episode, they had to recreate the power of three with Patty and Baby Prue and Piper.
So I didn't quite buy that they can just say a spell and they go home like that. They have to be, tap into some kind of magic that already exists.
I mean, it would have been a massive continuity blip as well, but I do wish they'd used the spell that Patty writes in that 70s episode.
I know.
I was quite disappointed that they didn't.
A time for everything and everything its place. Return to what has been moved through time and space. Yes. Number 6.
Yes. Witch Trap by Cameron Doki.
Yes. She wrote Haunted by Desire and Truth and Consequences before this.
Okay, so Phoebe decides to take a trip to Williamstown for an article she's writing on the gold rush, and her sisters come with her. In town, they're greeted by Ellen Staubner, who inherited the antique store from her mum and is also part cafe as well. And they look at some jewellery, and a brooch catches Paige's eye. A picture of a sad woman on it, who we learn later to be Emilia de la Cruz, as well as a triquetra on top. The girls take that as a sign that they're meant to be. Paige reaches for the brooch, and Piper and Phoebe come close. A click. Piper and Phoebe are gone. Paige grabs the brooch. Another click. Paige is found in a dense forest. Something begins to walk. A woman stops before her, asking her to follow, or else she'd be taken like the others. Paige kept the brooch in her pocket. The women had told her there are 2 others taken, because the men in the village think all strangers are evil. The woman says she's Marianne, and she believes her brother, William, is cursed by gold. William's been killing innocent people, and Paige feels he has taken Piper and Phoebe. Marianne agrees to take Paige to them at nightfall, because her brother is afraid of night. Paige and Marianne come to where Piper and Phoebe are held, glad to be reunited. They deduce that they've time travelled, and there's something to do with the brooch. Marianne recognises it immediately as Amelia's pin, her friend who was the first killed. So then we learn all about what happened to Amelia. So she and William fell in love on their travels, and they were supposed to be wed, but William discovered the gold he was mining belonged to a man called Paul Conrad, and William agreed to marry Paul's daughter Leanna instead, so that Paul would relinquish his claim of the gold. Amelia arrived to be with William, but discovered he was already married. Amelia decided to settle in the town regardless, and William saw her as a constant nuisance. So when bad luck fell upon the town and Leanna ultimately died, William accused Amelia of being a witch and blamed her for everything. He convinced the town people to rise against her, and they took her from her home and burned her at the stake. Whilst contemplating the story, a man named Tom McKay caught them and chided them all for aiding in evil. Tom pulled a knife on Marianne, but was stopped by William. William aimed to blame the strangers, convinced that his sister is merely under their spell. The sisters were locked back up in the stockade, while Marianne was to be locked in her own room and questioned. The sisters believe there's magic in their blood, even if they're powerless. They perform a spell similar to the one they used to summon Melinda on Amelia's brooch. Their logic is that they can at least use Amelia to get a message to Melinda Warren. Okay. I'll comment on that later.
Okay, yeah.
So, the spell to summon Melinda Warren from the dead. A candle is needed. Where they got that from, who knows? Melinda Warren, ancestress strong, help us now to prevent a wrong. By our blood and by our need, come to us, we summon thee. I like the spell, but everything around it, I didn't.
Yeah. Like the spell, it works, but it's just odd logic.
Yeah, it was very, very tenuous. And where did they get the candle from?
I don't know. I don't know. What?
So during the ritual, Amelia appeared, turned, and then Melinda appeared, and that was all that was left. Melinda reveals that Amelia did in fact curse William. She was innocent of any wrongdoing, and she continued to love William. Before her death, her emotions manifested into her final words. Until you express remorse, nothing that you claim to love will prosper. Instead, it and you will dwell in darkness. Only the breaking of your heart will the sun shine through. Only the breaking of your heart will save the innocents from suffering. And it was Amelia's lingering that her will that transported them through time to save an innocent both of them loved, Mary Ann. Melinda filled the sisters with support and guidance on what to do next. The sisters hid Melinda under some covers in the stockade before Tom McCade grabbed them and prepared them for burning. Tom McCade is convinced that Mary Ann Olsen too is a witch and shall be put to death. William fights back and demands that his sister should not be harmed. Paige realizes that Tom McCade is just trying to claim control over the town for himself and null any power that William has. Tom demands that Mary Ann divulge any other evildoers in town in order to make her suffer less in death. Mary Ann begins to name everyone in the town.
I thought this was clever. I'm going to read it.
Yes.
Because it was like a really cool moment. She's like, oh, you want here? Let's see. I will tell you who the true evildoers are. Here are their names. Tom McCade, Jeremiah whatever, Whitlock. And then she goes all through the names. And like, I accuse each and every man and woman in this town. Every single one of you is guilty of the same evil. You fear strangers for no reason other than that they are strangers. In your fear, you condemned Amelia de la Cruz. You let an innocent woman die. You are the evil that infects this town, not I. Your own actions this morning prove it. I'm like, ooh, you go.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. I guess if you've got nothing to lose, you might as well just go for the jugular. So Tom reaches for the torch, but William comes to fight him for it, and they tussle. And Melinda was tasked with diverting the townsfolk. A wind knocked the torch into Tom's face, and he dropped it. But it hit Mary Ann's pyre, and that starts. William raced to her, crying, I was wrong, forgive me. And he runs right into the flames. Paige shuts her eyes. In an instant, all of them are back in the antique store. Amelia's picture on the brooch no longer looked desperate. She was smiling. The end.
Oh. Okay. Thoughts?
There's a lot of loose threads, I found. I mean, I thought there was no need for Melinda to be there.
That's true. Just that.
I mean, there was really no need for the sisters to be there either, because Mariana kind of saved herself.
She did. Yeah, what? I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of like one of those time loop things, I suppose, that you need to something to mix it up for you to come to terms with something. I don't know. But yeah. I did cry at this though. I like this is so cute. Like the whole like redemption arc for William. He's like, I'm so sorry. And I thought there were a lot of like there's a lot of good history and like interpersonal relationships here. I thought I really understood who everybody was. And especially packed in such a tiny story. Like they were all felt really good. This was the Paige's first time meeting Melinda.
Yes, it was.
So that's kind of cool. I mean, even though Melinda had no reason to be there, she's just like, hey. And then like the whole thing where like she's gonna stay behind and do something. Like, did you really need to do that though? We could have sent you home like a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that they talk about Bruja. They said that Amelia is a Bruja witch because she's a Latin witch.
Yes.
So that was kind of cool that they included a Latin witch. Canonical. I only have two things for that. They mentioned Melinda's locket was used to summon her last time. So I'm like, okay, cool.
Yep.
And then they talk about how like there's magic in their bloodlines, going back to the All Hallows Eve, like how their innate magic is still in them somewhere. They just have to bring it into practice.
Though I think in this case it didn't quite work, just because there wasn't really anything for them to tap into because they were trapped in a windowless cell.
They're just like, we're magical. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like surely that then will just work anywhere.
It's like we don't have a broom to sweep. Like.
Yeah, like there's no brooms, no herbs, no manacles. I've just a candle that happened to be
nowhere.
there. Yeah. Canonically, I think I'm trying to work out where it should have taken place, and this one seems to have been taking place after Soul Survivor.
Okay.
I think their description of how Paige went headlong into something she shouldn't have, and it could have ended in absolute disaster, and that did seem to be when she was trying to break that Faustian deal.
Mm-hmm.
Had to die to do it.
Yeah. See? Cool.
Although that said, it was very much like I was reading it and going, okay, it's probably what this is from, but it did read like the author hadn't seen the season and was kind of guessing. I'm sure Paige threw herself headfirst into something. I'm sure she nearly killed all of them.
That's classic Paige, right?
Yeah.
Story 7, we're getting there. Whew. All right.
Yeah.
Old Family Recipe by Diana G. Gallagher. She is another staple in the bookdom of Charmed. So far, she wrote Beware What You Wish, Spirit of the Wolf, Dark Vengeance, Mist and Stone, and Mystic Knoll. Mist and Stone and Mystic Knoll. So yeah, it starts off with Daryl. He's asking Piper to bake 3 apple pies for the police precinct bake sale. Piper agrees, but she only wants to make it if she can do Grams' recipe, which she only ever made from memory. So they have to go and try to find this recipe because they know Graham says it's been written down before, but no one has ever found it. So they're like searching for it some more. Somewhere in the attic, they find one. It says apple pie, but it's not Gramps' handwriting. So maybe it's another Anna sister. She didn't say she wrote it down, just that it was written down. So Leo went off to the park with Wyatt to let Piper bake, and Piper made the pies. She followed the recipe exactly to a T. And then she delivers the 3 pies to Daryl, but she hid a 4th in the pantry for them to eat later. And Daryl calls Piper. He's like, guess what? Your pies were hit. Here's who bought them. They will love them. They're going to eat them tonight. Cool. Piper serves her secret pie to the family because she says dinner, like, I got dessert. I made one for us. They're like, I knew you would. And Phoebe likes the pie, but she thinks it's not quite how she remembered it. Leo devours his piece. Classic Leo. He's always hungry. He's like, give me the biggest piece. And then Paige likes it, and after eating, Paige sees her lipstick on her glass and offers to do dishes. She's like, oh, this is a dirty glass. Let's clean the dishes. Leo offers to put Wyatt to bed and even tiptoes out later in the night to spend time with him. The next morning, Piper finds the kitchen, dishes and all, completely spotless. Thanks, Paige. You went to town on this kitchen. Thanks for cleaning up. Phoebe was lounging on the couch to Monsters and Mayhem movie weekend, so it's like a whole horror movie night, which is on par because we know Kill It Before It Dies is her favorite movie.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I like that. Pepper makes pancakes for breakfast. Paige comes in to wash every dish the minute they are dirty. She's like, you done with that? Thanks, I'm gonna wash this. I'm gonna wash this. Like, all right, you were really on a cleaning kick, Paige. Love it. Okay. Leo feeds and caters to Wyatt exclusively. He's like feeding him his pancakes. I'm chopping up. He's like, you like your little pancakes, Wyatt? Oh. When Piper's like, I can do that now. She's like, no, I'm gonna feed him. And he would not back down. I'm like, okay. Then Piper offers to help clean up, and Paige is like, no, I got it. I'm like, geez, you people. Sure. So then Piper's like, I'm gonna talk to Phoebe because you guys are mean to me. And it's like, hey, you want to talk? And Phoebe's like, can't you see I'm watching TV? God, and she turns the volume up. Like, I don't want to listen to you either. Poor Piper. So Piper immediately concludes, she's like, you know what? It has to be that pie. I'm like, at least she's smart enough to connect the dots there. That happened quickly. She's like, oh my gosh, but you know what? I made 3 other pies. What about these other people? And so she calls Sheila, Daryl's house, and she's like, Daryl can't come to the phone right now. He's playing video games, or playing computer games. She's like, oh, and you know what? I gotta go make my patio matchy. I gotta, get all the stuff that's not matching out of here. Bye. She's like, okay. So I was like, well, I know they're obsessed with something too. All right. Well, but she's like, what about those other cops? I don't know their numbers. How do I get a hold of them? Oh, well, I guess I'll deal with it later. And Pepper stops Leo because she goes in the attic and she sees Leo leaving with Wyatt in a car. She's like, no, I can't have them leave. So she freezes Leo and she goes back down there. She grabs Wyatt and brings him upstairs. And then when Leo unfreezes, he's like so mad. He's like, why did you take Wyatt? And then he's like, here, Wyatt wanted to play hide and seek with you. He's like, oh, okay. That was a little funny moment. I love how he went from like husband scorn to like docile daddy in like the minute he saw Wyatt. Pepper wonders where the recipe came from. Like, she's like, if this wasn't Graham's recipe, she's like, the only evil witch in the family we know was Russell. So it's like, she's to blame. I know it. Like, they make assumptions real quick, but she's right. Pepper takes blueprints of the manor and uses them to scry. She's like, if that spell was in here, there must have to be a reversal somewhere. So let's scry the manor. I'm like, I never seen that before. And then Piper narrows it down to like the kitchen. So she's looking in the kitchen for this reversal spell that must be here. And then she finds like a magazine clipping hidden like inside the cabinet door. So it's on the inside of it, and it's dated October 1920. And then she opens that up, and inside is a spell by Baxter to neutralize Russell's pie. So she was found out, and she made this just in case. According to Baxter's notes, Russell gave the vengeance pie to a lover who had jilted her. She made it, and then his obsession took over, and they didn't stay together. Whatever. Pepper began and so the antidote is like in a tea form. So she began making the antidote tea, but she had to fight off Paige constantly the whole time because Paige's still in the kitchen. And the minute she like sees a dirty thing, she wants to clean it. And Pepper's like, "I'm still using those." She's like, "What? Come on, hurry up! I need to clean this." So there's like it took longer than normal because she's constantly fighting Paige for her measuring scoops and her knives and things. Pepper convinces Paige to drink the tea finally, which reverses her obsession. And then she's like, "Hey, you're better now. Help me make more." So they both make more together, and they're gonna go give them to the others. So they get Phoebe and Leo all healed up, and then they go to Sheila, forcing past her neighbor because Sheila's there, and she's like trying to cut down her neighbor's like orange flowers. She's like, "This does not go with my patio. Get rid of your flowers." So Pepper freezes the neighbor because they don't want him to see magic. So she frees the neighbor. Paige orbs the pruners from Sheila into her hands. And then she's like, "Sheila, if you want these pruners back, you have to drink this tea." She's like, "Okay, fine." So she drinks the tea. She's back to normal. And then they go to fix Daryl. They get him back to normal. And then they go to the captain's house. They fix him. Everybody has a thing. He's like working out. He's like, "I got to exercise bike, fix him." But then at the captain's house, Phoebe gets a vision of Angie, the last cop, and she's pointing a gun at her fiance who was like tidying. She's like, "Don't you clean? This is my stuff." And so she's like gonna shoot her fiance. So they orb there, freeze the couple, and then force tea down their open mouth. So they're not even the wiser. It's like they're better. And then they go back to the manor. Another delicious dinner, and all is well. Everyone's good. Everyone's back to normal. And they like destroy their Russell's apple pie recipe. And Paige remains adamant that there is no more apple pie in this house because apple pies are for evil witches. That trope is so true. So we're not gonna do apples anymore. And that's the end of that one. All right, what you think?
All of this could have been avoided if they just summoned Grams and asked her what the recipe was.
Right? I want to make apple pie. What's your recipe? Tell me. I mean,
Yeah, because there's very much doubt Grams would have said no.
Yeah, and she appeared in every other story pretty much in this book. Why not? Why not? I thought this was a cute story. I was curious about how it would play out, but it wasn't like nothing mind blowing, nothing that would like was that exciting. But it was like for a short story, it was cute.
Yeah. Although I was reading the recipe as she was doing it, and I'm like, dragon's blood and rosemary? Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I was tempted because I do have the recipes of them. I was tempted to read them, but I'm like, it wouldn't really serve a purpose to read these. It's just a list of ingredients. So, but
yeah,
if you want to make your own, you can find it. Even though Leo was obsessed with Wyatt, there were such cute dad moments with him in this.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, chopping up his pancakes and playing dinosaurs with him. I'm like, oh, I'm swooning over this dad moment. Yeah. Canonical.
And all the references to P. Russell and Part of My Past.
Yes, yeah, I love. And they say that they mention she's like, I never know never figure out their first names. I'm like, oh, well, I know them at least for me. So, and I kept thinking how Paige being obsessed with cleaning was similar to Piper in House Call.
Yes, yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, it's similar. And then Piper even mentions that. I'm like, oh, so you're mentioning what I'm thinking. I was really happy when that came up. She's like, I remember when I was obsessed by the witch doctor and I was cleaning the house. I hope she doesn't like start throwing the plates in the garbage. So that was fun for me. And really the whole spell in this was the same concept of that episode.
Yes, yeah.
I did not peg Daryl for a computer gamer though.
No, I didn't know either.
Like not even for like casual. Yeah, it's like that was a weird obsession for me. Otherwise, yeah, that's all I got. Last story.
Family History by Laura J. Burns. So she started and finished this collection. Yeah, so she wrote the other short stories, Samhain and Involk, in the previous collection.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, so we start with a tornado raging in the manor living room. An 8-foot tall the bull woman demon in armor steps out and attacks with lightning. I just want to interject here that Phoebe goes, "What kind of demon have tornadoes in?" There's a pretty obvious one. Surely that's not coming to mind.
I know.
Killed your sister.
I just wiped them from my memory because whatever.
It was like such an obvious thing that she could have just said that they like had a pang of a memory of Shax or anything like that.
Yeah, that was weird. That wasn't even mentioned.
So the demon is immune to Piper's powers, and Paige tries to orb lightning back at her from the bullface woman, who then changes and is now a voluptuous woman.
She's beautiful. What happened to the bullhead?
And then Paige realizes the amulet she was wearing, that was once Prudence Warren's, was missing. Piper sees that Wyatt's playpen and Wyatt are gone as well. And I will say that even though obviously it's from a place of, oh yeah, we're going to fix this. Both Piper and Leo seem very cavalier about the fact that Wyatt's just vanished.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It was very strange.
Yeah, because I'm certain they've panicked a lot more than that before with Wyatt going missing. And as a parent myself, and it's actually quite weird reading this now as an adult with a kid the same age as Wyatt is in this story. I was like, you are very, very calm about the fact that your baby just vanished.
Exactly.
They perform a safety spell, which made me very happy because it's the one
from the show. Yeah, exactly, from the show.
Yes. So it's when in the circle that is home, safety's got on an evil's roam. Riddle beings from these walls save us sisters three. Now heed our call.
Yep, it works. I mean, I don't know if it's just because I love it from the show, but I think it's a fine spell too. So
it is, yeah. I mean, it's a very bizarre one, just in the context of the show. Just that it's a spell that kills everything in the house that's not the Charm Sisters.
Yeah.
So they were taking a gamble that Wyatt hadn't just orbed out and was upstairs.
Yeah. Right.
Because that could have gone very, very badly.
Exactly.
And also, we can safely assume that at this point there's no Kit. Obviously, we know that Kit's not living with them anymore, but you imagine casting that spell and you kill your pet by accident.
Exactly. Things.
So the demon is now seemingly vanquished, but Wyatt and the amulet are still missing. They call for Leo, and he identifies the demon as Astarte. And I'm going to have many things to say about this later.
Okay.
I will come back to that. So Phoebe is suddenly very ill and overwhelmed with visions of ancestors and future descendants all fighting Astarte. Leo says Astarte can exist in multiple times simultaneously, and she's attacking the Warren line all across time. They begin to notice that things around the manor are changing because events in time are affecting their present. Paige puts apple and sage leaf combos around the manor, and the three recite a protection spell. So the spell is, for every witch in every hour, send us now the greatest power, brick and mortar, wood and stone, protect our centre, protect our home.
That's a nice spell, but it's still a protection spell. Yeah. I don't think they need crystals. Get the crystals again.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the crystals wouldn't go back through time.
Sure.
But then as they point out that it's only going to protect, well, they're aiming to protect the manor, but the manor's only in Warren hands from 1906.
Right.
So
all the time before that, different locations. The manor, you're going to Salem, you're going to Massachusetts, you're going so.
So Piper scries over the Book of Shadows, and it lands on a drawing and entry for P. Russell.
Again.
Apparently she's started. Yeah. Like, what the hell? Like, I could have sworn that when they talk about P. Russell in Pardon My Past, she's only evil for a small period of time when she's Anton, and he's the one who's leads down that path. But apparently she's been like this since 1920.
Yes. She's responsible for everything bad in the world.
Like, even they could have even had like the evil enchantress with this as well, or like I'm sure that P. Russell wasn't the only evil.
Right. I mean, come on, be realistic here.
So the sisters do a spell to follow evil's trail, and they all get sent back to before 1924. Now, in the past, they're immediately confronted by Bowen and Baxter. So we finally get to see Bowen.
Yes.
And
I was like, oh, see, you put her here. Why couldn't you put her in the first story? I don't know.
So Phoebe doesn't waste any time and tells them exactly who they are, and that she's met them before when she cast the past life spell. Which, but like that's not going to help because that hasn't happened to Bowen and Baxter yet.
Right. Like what? I don't know what you're talking about.
And also, if it's soul recognizing soul, surely they would think that's Phoebe.
Exactly.
I think that was her.
Right.
So Baxter and Bowen tell them that Astarte has already killed Russell, and they seem, again, very cavalier about this. Like, oh, our cousin's just died.
Yeah.
We would just watch her get murdered by a bull-headed
She
goddess.
summoned her and, she made her bed. Sorry. We're planning on killing her anyway, so good for her.
So they say that Russell summoned Astarte to try and steal her powers and become a goddess, and Astarte was so offended, so she decided to wipe her bloodline in spite.
I think that's a typical godlike sentiment, though.
Yeah.
Like, what? How dare you?
So back in the present, there's a new visitor who Leo thinks that Paige shouldn't meet, but then find out that the reason why is because she's Posey, Paige's granddaughter from the future. And Paige is embarrassed that she'd actually name her daughter.
Yeah. It's like, ew.
Sorry. That Pandora,
Yeah,
sorry.
Pandora.
Yes, Paige is embarrassed to actually name her daughter that. Although I feel like that's very on brand for Paige.
Right. She's like, it's alternative.
Yes. So Paige and Posey go to make a more protection potion, and Posey is extremely new to practicing the craft. And I do love this, like, oh, the protection potion that you made with the apples and the sage is wearing off, so go make more.
Mm-hmm.
So Leo returns with an ancient parchment from the elders and a potion and a spell to vanquish Astarte. And this I found really weird because he's like, oh, it's in Sumerian, but some medieval monks translated it to Old English, so it's fine. But Leo should be able to read that because he's an elder at this point, and we've already seen he can read Arabic.
There you go.
Yeah, whatever, okay. So they make a plan to inform all their ancestors and descendants across time to vanquish Astarte simultaneously because they think that will weaken her all at the same time. So Phoebe goes to 1967, where Penny and Patty are expecting her. Patty is a hippie teen. So that's a huge switch from when we saw her in 1966.
Yes. She's like, oh, I've accepted this now. This is my life.
Yes.
Peace and love.
And yeah. And Penny and Patty know that Phoebe is a descendant, but they want to avoid learning too much. And Phoebe goes over the Astarte vanquishing plan. Again, I'm assuming this is, it's depending if this is taking place after Alan dies or before.
Right. I don't, well, no, that would be, no, before, because if it's after, they would know who they are.
Yes.
So, yeah, right before, or around there. But I think it's between the last 67 or 66, because they remember they're from somebody from 1966, so they know that a little bit, and maybe put two and two together, but they don't know exactly. But before Witchstock, so that when they find out for sure.
Yeah,
it's tricky.
It is. Oh. So Phoebe goes. Hang on, I've got that bit. So Piper goes back 140 years to a museum, and we say great aunt Brianna, and Piper brings up Gabriel, the Lord of War. So yay, call back to which proves it anyway.
Get that crystal sword away from here.
Yes. And Brianna remembers attacking him because he came to loot her precious paintings.
She's like, I'm not going to fight you because you're evil, but just stay away from my paintings. How dare you?
Which seems odd, because why would the Lord of War want her paintings?
I don't know.
So Brianna seems relatively disinterested in her family and pretty much anything except for art. She unenthusiastically said that she might help vanquish Astarte if she has time. So Paige goes to 1684 and meets with Charlotte and a 14-year-old Melinda. Paige asks if she has the courage to face Astarte. So yeah, I was quite happy that they mentioned Charlotte, and Charlotte's there as well. I did like that they did this, but at the same time, it's like it would have made more sense for maybe Piper to be there, because Charlotte would know who she is and trust her. Back in the current time, Paige has studied tektite crystals that can be used as a conference call between timelines and summon everyone to one place. Why they couldn't have done that before? Yeah. So Paige performs a spell, and another one from an episode. So
except it's a little bit different, slightly.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So there's a modification of the one from Necromancy in the Stone.
Yes.
Yes. I call forth from time and space women from the Halliwell line. Mother's daughter, sister's friends, our family spirit without end, to gather now in the sacred place to help bring this demon to disgrace.
Okay.
Obviously, the last bit. The last line is changed.
And actually, they invert, because in the original, it's I call forth from space and time women from the Warren line, which has a much better rhyme. I don't know why they changed it in this one. Just must have got it wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's nice as a callback, but I wish they would have. I mean, bring this demon
So
to disgrace.
so all the ancestors appear and Astarte attacks. They attempt the vanquishing spell to no avail because they got things in the wrong order and they were supposed to throw the potion at the same
Right.
time and they didn't. So the Astarte vanquishing spell: Earth, water, fire, air. See Astarte standing there. Draw our power to do your work. Vanquish her forever from this earth. Astarte crushes the tectile crystal and all the summoned warrior members disappear. So there's that. A new plan of attack. Piper performs a spell to make Brianna's paintings disappear to ensure that she helps with the vanquish.
Like, okay, this was random.
Yes, and also, it could have been that they could have just asked another ancestor
I
to
know.
help. Brianna's sister, who's actually their ancestor, but okay. So this was the spell that they cast for Brianna's paintings. Oils and canvas, masterpieces, hide yourself from witch's eyes. Only when Brianna has spoken may you reveal yourselves and return her prize.
It's just all unnecessary to me. I just...
Yes.
Sure.
So Phoebe's got a revised spell because, as we know, Bowen and Baxter could not pronounce Astarte for the life of them. And Paige has a new improved potion to... under the assumption that Posey still doesn't understand what a pinch means. And
yes.
And Piper's upset thinking about Wyatt and how the changing history made him not exist.
But it's funny, this revised spell still has Astarte in it. So I'm like, what the hell?
Yes.
I don't understand what this was for.
Yeah. Because I was like, wait a minute, they still put the name in the spell. Yeah. Okay.
Like,
I mean, because they're the ones reading it, so rather than the Bowen, so it's
maybe
making sure that the two spells are still attached. And yeah,
sure.
Yeah. So the revised version of the spells: Earth, water, fire, air. See Astarte standing there. Heed our will and not our words. Her name ignored, her essence heard. Draw our power to do your work. Vanquish her forever from this earth.
It's a really nice poem.
It is, yes.
So I can dig that one.
So if this one works, the necklace and Wyatt reappear, and the timelines appear to have been restored. So the sisters return to the Book of Shadows and see how every witch wrote down about their part of the Astarte story, and they begin to write their own, or rather, Paige writes their end of it. And the end.
The end. So what's about this one?
Okay, so I just want to jump in here with Astarte. She is not evil, and nor is she bullheaded.
There you go.
She's also not Sumerian. That was just like a lot of things, like a quick Google would have sufficed that.
Almost like the butcherism of Hakati.
Yes, and Kali.
Yeah, all these. It's just something Charmed does.
Yes. Yeah, the only thing I was looking through and trying to think, like, why would she think Astarte was Sumerian? It's because it's Ishtar, and they're very similar goddesses, and they kind of they're conflated with each other a lot. And but Astarte is Canaanite, and the closest she has to bull symbology is that she has horns on occasion.
Okay.
But the one thing that Laura did get right was that she's a goddess of love, fertility, sex, and war. That's pretty much the only thing she got right.
Well, thank you for the lesson. I appreciate that.
Yes, I felt like just as a practicing pagan, I kind of needed to put that in. And I know some of my witchy friends listen to this podcast, and they would quite correctly lambast me for not saying anything.
I liked this story. I didn't love this story.
Yeah, it needed a bit of tidying up, I think.
Yeah, and like I kind of like the idea of like this like Charmed multiverse. Like here are the witches, all superheroes across time, cool, and the family feels. But like there's something about it. It felt very convoluted or something. I just wasn't getting the right mood I needed to love it.
Yeah, I feel like it had a lot of echoes of Forever Charmed, where they had all the characters across the times helping out with the final battle. But yeah, just not as tidy as I would have liked.
Yeah. And
also that it was P. Russell again. Like, find someone else.
Like, really, they're really hitting this lady home.
Yeah, I mean, I do get the impression that with these collection of short stories that whoever was collating them didn't really set them a guideline and just said that do a charm story about their past, about their Halliwell line, and didn't actually try and streamline it a little bit and make sure that they didn't have the same relatives mentioned every single time.
Right. If history was being changed around them because they noticed like the mirror changing and the clock was like ringing and Wyatt was gone and stuff, how is it that the sisters have memory of the things that are missing? Because I feel like if times changed, it should affect them in the present anyway.
Yes, I did think that as well. Like, I feel like when Forget Me Not, when the cleaners take Wyatt,
Mm-hmm.
and then no one has any recollection of him, but yet this time that they still remembered him.
Yeah. Future timelines, they might not be what they see now. That Posey and might not be an actual future, which brings us to canonical.
I mean, we know that Paige does have 2 daughters, so one of them could have easily been Pandora.
Except we have the names already. Kat and Tamora Mitchell are their names.
Oh, yes, of course we do, yes.
So
obviously hearing about calling her child Pandora changed her mind about calling her Pandora.
I mean, Tamora sounds close.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we know that she never actually had a kid named Pandora at all. So
no. I did like the small crack about the grandfather clock.
Yeah.
The small change in time, and suddenly it's working now.
Right.
And like of all the things that still remain broken, but the grandfather clock is fine.
Ta-da! That's the important part.
Yes, but I did like that I mean, I think obviously just a coincidence, but when the producers and the writers talked about Forever Charmed and how when they blew up the manor, they purposely left the grandfather clock intact as an inside joke.
Yeah.
I did kind of feel like that did remind me of that a little.
Those little things. I love that they brought Bowen into this story because it's like, yeah, she might as well be in this story. But then I didn't like the way she was written. She sounded like a complete ditz to me.
Yeah, she did.
Like this bubbly little girl that can't say words. This is nothing like the Bowen that I saw in Part of My Past.
No, she seemed very much like very straight-laced like Prue.
I put Patty being a hippie teen in 1967 is not canon to the show we got. However, it is canon to the show that was intended. Because it was originally supposed to be for Patty, that episode.
Witch Dog, yes.
So I'm like, okay. I'll let it slide because that's what we wanted. That's what they wanted to do.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't really know whether or not Patty was a hippie in Witch Dog, just that she was crashing with her Aunt Janice at the time. But we don't really know why. Right.
I always assumed that it was because she wanted to get away from her hippie parents, but maybe she just wanted a solo vibe time. I'm going to cleanse my aura over here.
Yes.
I believe Charlotte was a witch practitioner, but she was not a magical witch, is what I think.
I mean, we didn't really get
know much about her.
Tell that much. Yeah. Because the only time we see her is when she's in labor.
Because I know she's mortal. I know she doesn't have any powers, but like she has her witch. Was she friends with these people before, or did they just come to her and said we have to protect you? Like, was she in a coven of witch people that I don't know?
Yeah.
I mean, we need more. Did you have a favorite story of these 8 stories?
Oh, that's tough. Let's have a quick look at them again.
I don't know. I liked Witch Trap, and I like the first one. Probably the first one.
Yeah, I think for me it's probably a tie between Old Friend and The Crucible.
Okay.
But just because Marissa had all those Viva vibes, and I really like the Fourth Sister. Okay.
Cool. All right. I had just one general thought. By the end of this book, I was so tired of time travel.
Yes.
I'm like, oh god, I don't even want to read a time travel book ever again. But things. This is so long. I'm sorry this is so long. God. How about this? Which one do you think was the best villain of these books?
I mean, they were all kind of ropey.
I know. I had a whole showdown where we're gonna give them points, but I'm like, this will take too long. We've been talking long enough, so I'm just gonna what do we think?
I think I'm just gonna give it to P. Russell just because she's just doing everything.
She was doing everything.
Just like, oh, this didn't work. I'm gonna try this now. Oh, this didn't work. Let me try this one.
Yeah. I was gonna do that too, and just because her camp value is always so great, her entertainment value. I just love her sass and her her confidence and her cockiness. It's so fun to watch, and when I think of her, that's all that comes to mind. So, P. Russell, that's what we're gonna do. Pro Russell is going on the best baddie list, best baddie ranking. I'm not even giving my list right now. I'll do it in the next episode because this is a long episode. but I'm gonna put them up, the best baddies up after this episode, so you can vote on Instagram and pick your favorites, and we'll get votes for there. And then I'll just reveal my list and then the official list all next episode. All right. So last thing is tips for future white letters.
I was out being a force of good in the universe.
What's the overall story or moral we can learn?
If you're going to travel back in time, make sure you are prepared with some sort of magical backup.
Ta-da! Easy.
Yes.
Easy. My tip is sometimes it can be nice to take a moment to think about your roots and your heritage and where you come from and maybe discover something new about yourself. Yeah. Cool. So that's the end. Whew, finally. Thanks for bearing with me. Where can people follow you and find you and all that jazz?
Okay, so you can find me mainly on Twitter, NishaVM88. I am on Instagram, WitchCat114, although I don't post all that much on there. But yeah, those are the main places you can find me.
Cool. You can find this podcast at Words of the Witches, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Words of Witches on Twitter. You can email wordsofwitchespod@gmail.com, all the good stuff. Find me on my other podcast, Hanging with the Halliwells. And we will see you in 2 weeks. Your destiny still awaits.